Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Sexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So subscribe and hit that icon right now. So how am I dealing with heartache and heartbreak while still celebrating successes and wins? So today is 5 weeks ago since I split up with my ex. And if you've been following this channel, you'll know that it's been a rocky road to this grieving process. And I'm sharing it with you because if you are going through grief right now because of relationship loss or potential relationship loss, I want you to know I'm here for you and I understand you. I want you to know that you got this, together we will get through this. One thing we have to remember in life is that we've got through tough times before and we can get through this again. That this is not the whole state of our life or the whole state of our being forever. This is just a turmoil, a turmoil time. I was going to say a time of turmoil, right? Because in my mind, right, I know the guy was no good for me, right? In my mind, I know that in the end, there was so many lies, there was deceit, which is obviously really bad. There was so many contradictions, and it's left me with a sense of bewilderment, confusion, and all that lot. I'm not saying everything in the relationship was his fault. I don't say that, right? So I'm not putting all the blame on him for the ending of the relationship. I'm not doing that. I'm not portioning blame here. What I'm saying is obviously these things aren't good. And the way the relationship ended wasn't good. And so it's difficult for me to process how someone could go from seemingly being loving, kind, and caring to this other person. But if I look at things in the cold light of day, he was lying from the beginning about things, which I forgave him for and accepted. So I probably shouldn't have forgiven him, but there's a lot of things in society where you're meant to forgive people, right? It's meant to be really good if you forgive. But the thing is, if we forgive and we're actually being disrespected, then, we're allowing that disrespect. So personally, I wouldn't usually accept any lies. I'd be like, okay, I'm not interested. Bye. But with this particular person, I didn't do that. I tried to understand their point of view. I kind of did understand their point of view, even though I don't agree with lying. And so, I did accept that about them. And so the lesson is really like to trust your own instincts and to trust your own values. And if you don't value lying, if you value someone who's honest, then don't be with that person in the first place. So this is really important. So in terms of like heartache and heartbreak, I'm reflecting on my own thoughts, my own beliefs, my own values, my own actions, my own behaviors. I'm seeing if there's anything that I could have improved upon in that relationship. But also, one of the biggest learning curves is obviously accepting behavior that wasn't good for me in the first place. So sometimes in life, the actual lesson we need is to have stronger boundaries and stronger standards and to not accept things that were no good for us. So I'm still trying to process and make sense of a very confusing situation, which is holding me back, I think. I've got a lot of questions in my mind, like what was the reality and what wasn't, because this person was actually blurring my reality in the end. Like he was saying things that I didn't know if it's true or not. And so it's difficult for me to fathom out what was true, what wasn't, what was real, what wasn't. You know what I mean? And I guess I'll never totally know because only that person really knows. Because if someone lies and deceives, they know the truth, right? But some of them lie and deceive to themselves, these type of people. So that's also not good. But I have to deal with my own emotions. So first of all, we need to understand that grieving is a process. It can take a long time. And some people can get over situations, within a few weeks. Others take months, others take years, right? But we have to allow ourselves to feel these emotions if we are to process them in a healthy way. So repressing and suppressing emotions, just moving on to be in a relationship with someone else, is not actually dealing with the issues that cropped up in the previous relationship. I'm specifically taking a break, detox from dating sites, because I do not want to bring the trauma and difficulties of the way the last relationship ended to bring to a new relationship. That to me is not being loving or kind or caring to a new potential partner. And I don't want to do that anymore. And clearly there's some difficulties and issues that I have encountered because of this situation. And it might just be that I need to learn how to set more boundaries, learn to not accept behavior that I really don't usually accept and stuff like this. So there's things that I need to personally work on. I'm the type of person that, I'm not assigning all the blame to that person. But I have to be realistic. And there was a lot of things in the relationship which, he wasn't good with me on. And so I'm not saying I was brilliant and perfect with everything with him either. He would say things about me, no doubt. But I want to just tell you this because it's important, that, like not everything's going to be perfect in a relationship, but there are standards and boundaries we need to have. And we need to have respect. And if the person's not respecting us, it's never going to work. And we need to be kind and caring to ourselves enough to know that we're going through a grieving process. And we have to try and remember the reality of the situation, not just the rose tinted glasses. So as human beings, we tend to have this lens through which we see things. And when we really love someone and we're hurting and our heart is breaking from not being with that person anymore, we can kind of put them on a pedestal and just be seeing the good things, like, oh, the way that person smiled, the way the person made me feel when he smiled at me a certain way, the way he looked at me, the way the chemistry was, the way the kissing was, and all this type of thing. So when we focus on kissing and chemistry, and when we focus on the good qualities, then we miss something because we think something's lacking now because we missed those good qualities, those good things. So it's like, oh, this was really good, this was really great, but now my life doesn't have that. So that seems to come from a place of lack. And when we lack something, we kind of want it more, right? And we remember it more. But if we look at the situation in the cold, hard truth of the situation, the logical, the reasoning situation, if we think about how we felt in that relationship, about the way it fell apart, we can start to understand and unpick the fact that, hey, there was difficulties in the relationship. This person was not treating me the way I wished to be treated. This person was not respecting me. This person was not respecting my time. This person was not making me feel loved in the end, not making me feel valued in the end, not making me feel cherished in the end, not making me feel adored in the end. This person was giving me a false sense of security and hope. They were deceiving me. They were lying to me. And the list goes on. So if we look at the negative things, then it's easier to see, wow, I shouldn't have been with that person. It's right that we're not together. I'm glad that we're not together. But when your emotions are very strong for that person and you still have love feelings for that person, even if the person's no good for you, you can still feel a certain attachment to them and maybe even like you should be with them in some way. But you still feel connected to them. You know what I mean? I find it particularly hard during this 5th week to not be connected to them. Like, I was doing really well, and I'm really thinking about enjoying my single life, being happy being single, and I was like detaching from him, looking forward to the future, focusing on the present, and that really helped me to get over him. But something then happened and my mind switched back to being more attached to him again, to not being able to let him go again. I mean, of course, we've let each other go in reality because the reality is we're not in the relationship anymore. So this is like in the mind, right? It's in the soul and it's in the emotions that you're still connected to this person, even though they've gone. For all I know, he could be with someone else now, could have left the country by now. You know what I mean? Could be doing a range of things now. It doesn't really matter. But what we have to do is deal with our own feelings and emotions. First, through self-love and compassion to understand that we are still grieving. Secondly, to understand that our mind messes with us in these situations because we have emotional attachment to the person. So therefore, logic doesn't necessarily work because our emotions can be much more overwhelming than the logic of the situation. So we have to just understand and say to ourselves, okay, I'm not thinking straight at the moment. My mind is just messed up and it isn't seeing the reality of the situation. Like, I've had moments this week where I just keep seeing his face, smiling face, and it just repeats like a record. And the only way I can help get over that is when I practice certain breathing techniques, when I practice more mindfulness, which is thinking about the present, not thinking about the past, not focusing too much on the future, but thinking about the present more. But earlier on today, I was thinking about the present moment and the future more. I was thinking about book signings. I was thinking about the future more with that, I've been very creative as well. So yesterday I was being really creative. I was creating a media press kit, a new one for myself. And when I was deeply involved in that, that really helped me because it stopped me thinking about him. So I find that when I'm really doing creative work, creative pursuits, putting text together, putting images together, you know, making something look really good, I find that that helps alleviate the thoughts of him because I'm buried in a creative pursuit that's making me feel good, right? I just had a podcast interview about asexuality. Again, when I'm in the zone and I'm in my element, I feel so good that I'm forgetting about him. I have a bad back, but I knew as soon as I started the podcast interview, I was interviewed for someone else's podcast, that I would instantly start to feel better, as in I wouldn't even think about my back. And I didn't. I did say to the host, "Oh, I'm feeling, I'm good, but have got bad back, but I'm trying not to think about it." And I know with the energy of the show that she hosted that I won't be thinking about my back, and I've completely forgot about it till the end when she said, "I hope your back gets better." Because when I'm in my zone, when I'm in my flow, when I'm feeling really good and doing something great, I forget my bad back because my physical problems are linked to my emotional problems. So until I've got more and more over this heartache and heartbreak, I think it's going to be harder for my back to heal. And I just keep getting a lot of physical pain because what happens is that emotions and the upset and pain build up in your body. And so they make all the muscles tighter and stuff like that. And so this just causes more pain throughout the body. And so I think this is what's contributing to my back pain, and my muscle pain, which has been really painful. So, like I said, practicing like being present and thinking of the future is really good. When I focus on this channel's had over 41,000 views just in 28 days. This channel's got over 800,000 views in total. I cannot thank you enough for that. When I think about these, wins and successes, and when I'm still so happy about my Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual book being #1 hot new release last month and in multiple categories a bestseller, then it just fills my life with joy and love for myself, and for the community, and just fills my life up. So when I think to myself that the day I split up with him 5 weeks ago was the day I published this in Kindle version, and the day after I published it in printed version, and that same week we split up was when I became a best-selling author with this book in multiple categories on Amazon.com and Amazon.co.uk, and #1 hot new release on both those platforms. This is just incredible. So it actually confirms that I'm much more successful without him. I'm more successful without him because this got to bestseller status, which doubt would have happened when I was with him because he was upset. I was going to say he was upsetting me. I felt upset with his behavior towards me in the end, So the fact that I became a bestseller and hot new release, #1 hot new release of this book, just after basically I split up with him, is just a huge success. But when I think about that, and I think about the success I've had since I've left that relationship, it makes me feel better. And that helps me to get over heartache and heartbreak by reminding myself how much better my life is, how much calmer, how less stressed I feel, how less anxiety induced. I have an anxiety condition, so I still get anxiety, but I have less stress and less anxiety. My tummy's more like on an even keel since leaving that relationship, being a bestseller, and celebrating the successes of this channel. Because I've left that relationship, I've been uploading a lot more consistently to this channel, a lot more shorts videos. I've been back to doing regular live streams nearly every night. And so this consistency has paid off with over 41,000 views in 28 days alone. Got over 100%, I think it's over 100% more views on my hourly views as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just here it is. I'm just making a noise because I'm getting up. So 41,747 views this channel's had in the last 28 days. Right? This was earlier I posted this. This is 23, I think it says, 0.7 thousand more than usual. I mean, this is just insane. Watch time hours 360.30, over 100% more than usual. 100.30 more than usual, it says. So what's that? Is that what's that? 50%, isn't it? I don't know what it is. It's 100.3 more than usual. So it's 360.3. I'm not very good with percentages, but basically it's over 100 more people. Not people, more hours. Over 100 more watch hours. And I got 85 subscribers, which is 49 more than usual. So, it's huge. So the channel is nearly double. It's 41.7k, 23.7k more than usual. So, you know what I mean? It's just incredible. I cannot thank you enough. So what I'm saying is, you can tell my maths isn't great, but what I'm saying is that's incredible and so impressive. And this is since I've split up with the guy. Like, it's hard. It's been hard. It hasn't been easy. And, I'm having difficulties. I'm having difficulties with accepting the reality of, I guess, one, we're not attached to each other anymore, but I still feel an emotional attachment to him. And, he's no good for me. And the reality of the fact he's no good for me, isn't overriding the emotional attachment at the moment. I still feel emotionally attached to the guy, which isn't good because he's no good for me. So, I'm still thinking of his face. I'm worried about him. Like this week, I'm like, oh, I'm worried about him. Is he okay? Is he all right? How's he doing? I hope he's okay. I hope he's well. You know what I mean? I'm like, you should be thinking more about yourself, Sandra, than him, right? You should be worried more about yourself, and I'm doing really well without him in actual practical terms, because, this channel is excelling. My diary confessions book, like I said, is a bestseller. I'm actually scheduling things in. I'm building more structure in my life now. I'm going out more than I ever went out before. I think I'm going out more and more. I'm back to self-dating again, which I wasn't doing while I was seeing him, being in a relationship with him, and I'm spending more money on me because I don't have to spend it on when he comes over. And, I'm decluttering my home as well, and I'm in the Love Life Club. And so what I learned this week is, I said to Matthew Hussey and his wife in the Love Life Club, in a message which they responded to, like, how do you know what's your fault and what's their fault if, he deceived me, he lied to me, he contradicted himself. Well, he was contradicting, and it seems manipulating me. Like, how can you tell what's your fault and their fault? And their answer was, you can't. You can't take the word of a bad actor. And he was basically being a bad actor, and you can't take the word of that because you don't know what the truth is, and he blurred your reality. So you can't take anything from that. And that was really interesting. I like the fact that Matthew said he's a bad actor, and Matthew's like, oh, you'll learn the lesson again. Whatever lesson you need to learn, you'll learn it again if you still need to learn it. I'm like, I don't want to learn any more lessons in the future. I want to learn the lesson now. Do you know what I mean? Because I need to stop this. I don't want to get hurt again. But his wife said, oh, if you're in a relationship with a toxic person, you can become toxic yourself, which I didn't know. I mean, I can kind of gather, like, they can push you into behaviors which are more toxic because you're kind of having to defend yourself, stick up for yourself. You're dealing with someone who's not behaving correctly, so therefore you've got to change your own behavior to a certain extent as well. Or that person just drives you crazy, so you act crazy. You know what I mean? I can understand that. But that was very interesting what she said about that. She said that as a generalization, so that was very interesting. But it is helping being in the Love Life Club. It's helping going through the course. It's helping me to see the reality of the situation. That it wasn't no good for me, but I'm still finding it difficult. I'm still struggling. So I have contacted an organization about getting some counseling. It's actually safe. I told you I've been on a 14-week pattern changing course in 2013 with a company called Stop Abuse for Everyone, and they have a organization which offers some counseling services. So I'm seeing if I can get something along those lines, because this experience recently has triggered past wounds and past triggers. And so that's been really hard to deal with. And it's felt like I was going forward and I was moving on from him and detaching from him. That it felt like I'd gone backwards and more worried about him than myself. And it's like, hang on a minute. But I'm still worried about myself. But I guess I've got nothing to worry about though, because I'm actually good on my own. I'm used to being on my own. And someone did put in a message in the Love Life Club about being on your own, and I'm like, I actually used to being on my own. I think sometimes I'm on my own too much though, because I think it's good to have human connection in person, not just online. And I find that I'm too much like on my own a lot of the time, whereas I think it would be a bit more healthier if I had a few more friends in person that I could meet up with. But it's great because I have a good best friend and they talked to me on the phone, and that was really helpful because I was sharing how I feel. When you've got friends to talk to about how you feel, then it does help. I saw my parents as well, which I haven't seen for ages, so that's good. So reconnecting with family or friends and sharing some difficulties you're going through can really help. Talking can really help. And like I did actually speak to another organization, but they couldn't actually help me at that specific point. And they said, oh, your ex has got issues of his own, clearly, but it's for him to deal with. It's not for you to worry about. You can't change his behavior and you can't deal with his issues for him. He's got to deal with them. But that was quite refreshing to get another perspective. It's not just me who's going through difficulties. He's got issues of his own because of his behavior that he needs to work on, which I'm guessing he won't do, because I'm guessing he just thinks everything's my fault and I'm given a headache and that's it. But yes, so he'll probably be dismissing of me like that and not work on himself. But I am willing to work on myself. I know I'm not perfect. I'm not blaming him for everything, and I am trying to find solutions to work on myself and work on my life. Having a dating detox is very difficult as well, because I've realized during this week that I'm lacking in dopamine, because I used to get a lot of dopamine for being on dating sites for 10 years and getting guys in my inbox and be able to talk to guys whenever I want. And, that's why I haven't ever felt lonely really over the last 10 years that much, or if at all, because although I was alone, I'd always got guys to talk to in my inbox. But cutting that off out of my life, I have felt a bit lonely at times, because I've been like, oh, I haven't really got anyone to talk to, and I'm used to someone here. And obviously it's very validating when you're on dating sites if the guys are all saying you're beautiful. And I got a lot of compliments on the dating sites. I got a lot of guys liking me, and of course that is good for your ego. Of course, like, it's validation. So cutting that off and slowing my life down and focusing on other things is very unusual for me. It's out of my comfort zone. I'm not used to just being here. I'm used to like doing stuff all the time. I'm used to being on dating sites and stuff a lot. But what I'm trying to do is plow my life and myself back into doing my work that I've been neglecting, and getting stuff sorted for that. And I think this is very important, because when we get into a relationship, we can neglect other areas of our life, because that person becomes the most important thing to us a lot of the time. And therefore we kind of lessen the other things we do, if that makes sense. And so, like, when that person leaves, it then means there's a bigger gap. But having a bigger gap, a bigger space in your life, means you can let other things in and be more successful in other areas of your life, because that person's no longer there anymore. So you're in effect filling that void, filling that gap. And because I've been on dating sites for 10 years, that took a lot of my time up. Now I get that time back to focus on other things. It's just that I'm an extrovert and I get dopamine very differently sometimes by than other people. Like, a lot of people get dopamine from going out walking, nature and stuff like that. I have been out for a walk to the quayside. I am trying to go out for more walks. I'm trying to be in nature a bit more, but nature's not really my thing. So but I am going out in general, more food shopping, more, just getting little bits here and there. So that's really important for my mental and physical health. Walking is fine for my back, but most of the time, but it's like, now it's hurting when I'm sat down and stuff. Sometimes walking makes it feel worse, other times it feels better. So I find like going out of my flat really helps me. I find being in my flat's harder, because there's still like, he was in this flat and there's kind of a lot of memory still. Also, when I say certain things or think certain words, that can be a trigger for reminding me of him as well. Like when people are saying they want a peaceful life, that is even triggering for me, because like he used to talk about, oh, I just want a peaceful life. But he said that like he was irritated by me because I wasn't giving him a peaceful life. But if I hadn't been anxiety induced and stressed and had someone lying and deceiving me and changed behavior and attitude, then I probably wouldn't have been so stressed and anxiety induced in the first place, which would have given him more mental peace had he behaved better towards me in the first place. So he doesn't even think he's still got anything to do with the problem of his mental peace. He seems to think it's just other people. But that's not how life works. In order to have peace and harmony with other people, you still need to be responsible for your own behavior and how you're treating them, because for every action there's a reaction. For every cause there's an effect. People in your environment do matter because they do affect you. So this is important to know. So it's been a difficult week, with some like light at the end of the tunnel, like, oh, I'm getting over here. I'm really happy being single, so happy to being single, really excited to be single again, really loving being single again, thinking of the present, thinking of the future. It's like going backwards, thinking more about his smile and is he okay, So it's been a mixed emotion week. And so this makes things a bit up and down, So I think on week 5 for me, there's kind of a lot of emotional turmoil with up and downness. I'm better than I was. I'm not crying all the time. I have, times when I'm buried in my work where I'm not thinking about him or not thinking about him much, and it's good. But I find this week I've got a lot of repetition, like a record going round, like a broken record going round, which I can't seem to get rid of. So I think I have to just accept the fact that I've got these thoughts, feelings, emotions, and I've got to grieve still to get them out, I think, because when we try to not think about a certain thing, we just think about it more. When we try not to feel a certain thing, we feel it more, it enhances the thing we don't want. So sometimes it's better to just radically accept the truth and then think, okay, right, okay, I still have feelings for him, but I can focus on the present, I can focus on my future, I can get some more stuff done. The pain from my back and ribs is no doubt linked to this emotional turmoil I'm going through, but it's really hard. It is a lot of pain, but when I'm focused on something I really enjoy that gives me pleasure, I tend to forget the pain. So it's a lot better for me. But, I've got stuff that I need to catch up on. I've got people I need to put in my asexual groups. I've been waiting a long time. I've got stuff for Blue Talks Experts Bureau that I've just, been working on this week, but I've still got some stuff to finish. That's like been due for like a couple of months. But because I've been in a very difficult emotional state, I haven't been able to do as much work. So I have to like give myself some compassion for that, give myself some respect and say, hey, you're going through a really difficult time. This has brought up a lot of triggers and past traumas for you. It's not just the relationship that was the issue, it's other things. And it's made you feel disconcerted. In some ways, my confidence and self-esteem has been kind of shocked, but not in terms of the way I look and helping asexuals. Like, I do love the way I look, despite the fact he said he was better looking than me, which is completely BS. I actually do love the way I look. And I don't think he's better looking than me. I told him that as well. I don't compare myself to him. I'm not in competition, which clearly he liked competition or whatever. But anyway, it's just a weird thing you wouldn't say to anyone, let alone your girlfriend. But a very insecure person says that if they have to go around saying that, But anyway, I still feel very confident about my looks. So he did not diminish my confidence about my looks in any way, even though he said that. It didn't make me feel good. It made me feel like shit. And it was horrible when he said that to me. But it's him not valuing my worth and not valuing my looks enough, not me. I still love my looks. I still find myself attractive because I programmed myself like that for years to find myself attractive. I love the voluptuous look about me. I love my hair. I love my smile. I love my face. So in terms of like physical appearance, I still love myself a lot. I'm still very much attracted to myself. I find myself attractive, which I didn't used to do years ago. It took lots of training in the mirror and lots of positive self-talk, and I do a lot of positive talk when I'm going to the city. So if you want to know like some of the secrets, I do tell myself I'm sexy. I'm going along outside my home and I'm going into the city and I'm thinking thoughts to myself. I'm not saying this out loud. I'm going, you're so sexy, Sandra. You're so hot. You're so gorgeous. Love your hair. Love your smile. You're so beautiful. You're so sexy. And I do say this stuff to myself and it works really well. So if you've got a lack of body confidence, if you've got a lack of body self-esteem, if you've got a lack of appearance self-esteem, a lack of confidence in your appearance, then this really helps, you know. This is weird, isn't it? Admitting. So an asexual admitting they call themselves sexy and hot. But I think it's very important to know this is what I do, because it raises my confidence and it raises my self-esteem about my own looks. It means I'm almost bulletproof to whatever people say about my looks. I'm like, I really don't care, because I think I'm attractive to myself. So if you don't think I'm attractive, I don't give a shit, because that's fine. It's your opinion and you're entitled to it. And not everyone's going to be attracted to me. That's okay. But I do find myself attractive. I didn't used to years ago. Like I said, this has been a long process. But I'm so glad that before I got into that relationship with him, that I was very, very, very attracted to my own looks. Because even though he said what he did, and even though he was like reluctant to share me on social media, because clearly he has some sort of weird thing going on with that, I know there's a lot of guys that would be proud to see with me on social media. I know I've had guys in my inbox for years on dating sites that have said how beautiful I look. You know, I've even had an Indian guy on this channel who I was like not even in a relationship with, who was like dancing with me, who was happy to be on my channel with me, you know, and for his friends to see it on Instagram, you know. So the fact that he didn't do that, I think it's poor. I think it's disgusting. I think he should have been proud to have had me as his girlfriend. But if he wasn't, then he doesn't deserve my time, energy, and effort anyway. You know? And at the end of the day, I have trained myself so well to like my look. That is something that he couldn't take away from me, thank God. And I do love my look. I mean, but one of the things I do on purpose is I'm still saying positive self-talk. So my self-talk and other aspects of my life and myself since splitting up with me hasn't been as good. So I have been lacking in more confidence in other areas of my life to do with being in a relationship. That's why I'm just not going to a relationship at the moment. I'm not interested in looking for another relationship. My mum knows I'm in the Love Life Club, Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, and my mum said, "Do you think this guy Matthew is going to be able to help you find a new relationship?" And I said, "I'm not even looking for a relationship at the moment, mum, because this previous guy hurt me and that, and it's quite traumatic and difficult time split up, and I don't want to go to another relationship right now. I'm not looking for one." But technically, Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club is to find the love of your life within 12 months. That's what it's designed to do. So you change your life, you change your mindset, and you get the love of your life at the end of the 12 months. That's what it's designed to do. But at the moment, I'm just using it to like help myself be better, learning about dating and relationship skills and get over this heartbreak. And that's what I'm predominantly using it for at the moment, because I'm not interested in getting into a relationship with anyone else. I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. I do want to be single for the foreseeable future. I like being single. And I do not want to get hurt by any guy ever like this again. It's really horrible. I mean, this experience has been really traumatic, and I didn't see it coming. I thought that if I was with the guy in the relationship and we split up, it wouldn't be this painful. I could handle it and it'd be fine, and it wouldn't be that big a deal. But boy, was I so wrong. It's been the opposite. It's been traumatic in and of itself. Plus, it's brought up old traumas and old triggers that I thought I dealt with that clearly I haven't. I've got unfinished business with that I need to address. In some ways, this is good that it's happened, because I know that I've got triggers and traumas from my past that I need to actually address, which I didn't realize and I thought I had. I do believe everything happens for a reason. I do believe this is a growth period for me. This hurts a lot still now, but I know that it's not going to hurt forever. And I know that it's going to be the catalyst for the change that I need in my life. And so I know it's a good thing that's happened overall. My intuition, my knowledge, my know-how knows this is a good thing for me. It knows that this particular period in my life is going to take me to the next level, the next best level version of Sandra. But at the moment, it still hurts like hell in some ways. It's hard. It's been very destructive, and it has lowered some of my confidence, self-esteem in other areas, not my looks, and not helping asexuals. Those are still watertight, very confident in those. I excel in those. I know what I'm talking about, and I do love my look. I love my look, so I don't give a toss where anyone else likes my look or not. I love my look. For me, even when I'm alone, you can tell if you're really confident about something when you're on your own and you're still praising yourself and you're still loving yourself and you're still thinking you're good looking, right, on your own. Because it's easy to feel good looking when people are telling you, "Oh, you're good looking, you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah." But if no one else is telling you that for quite a while, and you're not on dating sites with that validation, but you're still telling yourself that, that's how you know you've got real inner confidence and strength in that particular area in your life. But, you know, I'm going down the high street and I'm purposely going, "Oh, you're so good looking. You're so gorgeous. I want to kiss you right now," to myself. So everything that I would love a boyfriend to kind of say to me, I guess, is like being your own boyfriend to yourself and you're saying it to yourself. But it works. It works. It's kind of naughty. So I'm going up the street going, "You're so hot and sexy, Sandra." And I'm walking like this, thinking it in my head. And I'm like, "That's so naughty. I'm walking in the street and you're saying this to me." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So I'm having this private conversation in my head. Right. I don't have to share this on my channel, but telling you secret information here about what goes on in my mind on purpose. So it's reprogramming my mind. And I'm trying to reprogram my mind to be happier overall in general every day by doing positive affirmations. There's a guy called Bob Baker on YouTube, and I've started listening to his channel again every morning to get into a habit of reprogramming my mind to be more confident and secure in myself, to be happier, to be thinking good about life, because my mood has been lower, but that is partly because of the dopamine detox from not being on dating sites anymore. So I have to recognize there's two things here. One is the guy, you know, splitting up the guy, old traumas and triggers it's brought up. Well, one is the trauma of actually the way it ended. Two is the traumas and triggers it's brought up. And three is the fact that I'm going on a dopamine detox from dating sites. And, you know, in order to still get that dopamine, I need to replace that thing with something else. And I'm not replacing it with enough at the moment a lot of the time, because, you know, like I'm having hits of dopamine through, like, you know, going out socializing, doing something enjoyable, having some sunshine and stuff like that. But I'm not really having a lot of dopamine like I would be. Like, I was on dating sites for 10 years, like guys in my inbox most days, right? Not every day, but every week usually, you know, and I'm getting like validation for all the likes, you know, just by my picture. They like me. They weren't even reading my bio, which is a bit insulting, not reading my bio. But then it's, on the other hand, it's very nice. They like my look, you know what I mean? Just seeing one picture, yeah, I like her, and got loads of hundreds of likes, you know what I mean? So, you know, I'm not doing that anymore on dating sites. I'm having to live a different life. It feels slower. It feels less exciting. And so I need to find other sources of excitement in my life, but I need to also calm my nervous system down, because before I even got into that relationship in February, you might remember, I broke out in spots and rashes and lumps. And that was to do with the fact I was stressed then, you know, and I was getting stress rashes at that time as well. And, you know, I know that it's to do with my nervous system is not functioning like it should do. It's like self-erupting or whatever. So I know that I've got work to do on that, you know. And so I'm trying to calm my sympathetic nervous system down by not being active on dating sites. I am still actually on some dating sites, but I'm not being active. I'm not messaging anyone. I'm not going on the person's profile and looking all about them or anything like that, right? I'm just not going there. And so it's really important to note the changes I'm going through. You know, doing a dopamine detox as well as having grief for a past lost love is very difficult, because I'm doing two things. Like, it, if I was going on dating relationship sites now, right, I would be talking to other guys. So it'd be easier for me to just think, "Oh, there's loads of other guys out there for me. It doesn't matter about this one guy," which really it doesn't, because there are billions of other people out there, right? But, you know what I mean? Because I'm not doing that, I'm not distracting my mind, I'm leaning into the grief, I'm leaning into the emotions, I'm facing the fears and emotions head on, facing the sadness, facing the difficulties. Because I'm doing that, it is a lot frigging harder. It's so hard. It's so difficult. It's one of the most difficult things I've had to do in my life, right? Because we do get like addicted to these things. Our body gets used to them. Our mind gets used to them. You know, we're used to the validation. I'm used to guys being in my inbox all the time. And so for me, I haven't needed an immense amount of friends because I've always got guys to talk to. But now I'm not doing that. It's like, hang on a minute. I'm not really talking to many other people, right? I'm just not. And so that there's a void there. There's a like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I used to have guys all whenever I wanted to talk all over the place, whether it's on Facebook dating, on Badoo, wherever I felt like it. You know what I mean? Most of the time, not all the time, but most times, especially multiple times a week. So by not doing that, it's kind of like I'm missing that. There's feels like something's missing. I'm used to excitement in my life. I'm a hyper romantic, a hyper kisser. I live a hyper life. And when I'm not being hyper and I'm not doing things that I would call exciting for me, that makes me feel down. It makes my mood down. So I have to be very aware of my mood. And so I'm adopting new habits by doing these positive affirmations every morning by Bob Baker. You can look up Bob Baker affirmations on YouTube. He's really good. I listened to him in the past, but I didn't keep a consecutive habit up with actually listening to him every day. So every day when I wake up now, I'm making sure that I listen to him so that I can start my day right. I did over an hour's worth of affirmations today. So affirmation, when you say positive things, like he'll say positive things and you repeat them back. So you're saying them to like yourself, you know? So that is a really good thing. It does help me a lot. It helps me to get into a different state of mind, helps me to feel better about my day. Subconsciously, it does help a lot as well. And getting back into thinking more about work and doing work stuff is really helpful. But I have to give myself some time to chill out, to just relax and be me, and to make sure I'm self-dating, make sure I'm doing other things. Being out of the flat is one of the best things for me at the moment, but I can't be out all the time because it costs a lot of money. I mean, obviously, sure, walking doesn't cost money, it's free. But if you're walking to somewhere to buy something, or in the case of me, I still need like my blood sugar levels to be kept at a good level. I'm still buying food out, you know, so it can all add up to being expensive. So at the moment, I'm thinking about ways I can actually change my environment around in my bedroom or in my actual home to make it more homely and better. I'm thinking about ways I can declutter, you know. So I have actually sold a bed throw in the last week, because you know that was an old bed throw from an old friend. It wasn't old bed throw, old. I hadn't used it that much, but you know, it's from my past. And so I got rid of that, you know, fiver from Vinted. I got paid for that, so that's good. So it declutters my home, gets a little bit of money. And so that's really good. I love using marketplaces. I talk about this on my Make Money Make Cash channel, like how to make money on Vinted and Facebook Marketplace. It's something I'm really good at. I'm good at selling physical products because I used to sell physical products for years when I worked in retail management. So I'm actually very good at selling physical products. And it's something I get a buzz out of, selling physical products. And I got a 5-star review on that. I love giving great customer service, you know, and so this is really good. So anything that makes me feel good, that makes me feel elated, that makes me feel happy, that brings me back to myself and to my current reality is helpful for moving forward and moving on. But then, you know, when I have his face in my vision and stuff, that's bad, because it then makes me more emotionally attached to him, can't disconnect from him fully yet, and it makes it harder for me. And then the love things I remember, and I remember the good stuff. But if we just remember the good stuff and we don't remember the bad stuff, we don't remember the reality of the relationship. The reality of the relationship in the end was, I told him, this is not sustainable. I'm feeling so anxiety induced and stressed out because I feel so disconnected from you in the end when I was away from him. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for me to be in this level of stress and anxiety inducement. I can't go on like this. So he knew that if he didn't do something about the way he was with me, then the relationship couldn't last anyway. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And so he made me think he was going to do something about it, then did the opposite, basically. So it wasn't good. I'm not blaming him for everything. Like I said, this is not a blame game. I'm just saying, you know, like this is the reality of the situation. So when I think about the bad things in the relationship, the things that weren't good, the actual scenario is we couldn't have stayed together as it was. It's not healthy in the end. In the beginning, there was a load of great stuff, and he appeared very differently, kind, caring, empathetic, and all the rest of it. By the end of it, it was like the opposite. So so it wasn't sustainable. I couldn't have carried on that relationship in that way, and he knew that. So you know, it was hard. So if I think about the logic of the relationship, like all the things that weren't good, and that, you know, he wasn't a good guy for me in the end, that's great. That helps me. But the fact is, I'm still emotionally attached to him. The logic and the emotions don't add up. You know, I still emotionally attached to him. I still do remember the good times I had with him. I still do remember his smile. I still do care about him. I care about what happens to him, even though he's been really bad by lying and deceiving me in the end. Do you know what I mean? So it's very hard. I have mixed emotions. You know, I have the emotion where it's like, oh, this guy was really not a good guy for you, Sandra. You did absolutely the right thing by not being with him anymore. It's not good the way he treats you in the end, right? And he can say what he likes, but it's not good. Lying is never good, whatever he says about you. And were you always honest, Sandra, with him? Yes. Did I deceive him? No. Was I always 100% honest with him? Yes. Did I change my behavior and attitude with him? No. I was always steadfast, strong, and the same type of person. Well, you could argue I wasn't as strong because, you know, my confidence was going down with him. I didn't feel so secure or stable with him in the end, you know, and that's no good. It's a recipe for disaster, right? And so, you know, I have to deal with the reality situation. So what helps is if you bring yourself back to the present moment and try to forget about the past and not focus on it as much, because otherwise you go around in circles. But you have to still deal with the grief. You have to still deal with the feelings, emotions. So if you need to cry, you have to cry. Right? It's horrible to think I'm crying over someone like this who was like lying and deceiving me in the end and not a good guy for me. It's horrible to think that. It's horrible to think, like, why give him the time of day? Why waste my time, energy, and effort in this regard? Because at the end of the day, we're not together anymore. It's been 5 weeks now, and it's best just to move on. So logically, I'm like, just move on. But trying to tell someone just move on from when they're grieving, it doesn't work like that. You can't just wave a magic wand, which I wish I could right now, and everything be over and it just like you move on, unless you're a really unempathetic, uncaring person. You know what I mean? You can't just switch your feelings off. The emotions and feelings are still there if they were genuine for the person. If they weren't genuine for the person, then of course you can move on easily. And some people move on because they're suppressing and repressing how they really feel, and they don't want to admit their feelings. But I'm admitting this. I'm here admitting that I still have feelings and still feel connected to a liar, someone who was no good for me in the end. Right, someone who I've split up with like 5 weeks ago now, but I'm still having upset and pain over this situation. And I believe everything will be fine in the end. I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe, I'm clearly meant to be going through this turmoil at the moment. But, there are improvements because I'm not crying all the time. I feel a lot more stable in my emotions within myself, which I was finding really hard to stabilize my own emotions with this situation. So I'm more stable in my emotions now. Um, the, I think the, past troubles I had with my ex did kind of have an impact on me and my best friend, because they were really worried about me in that relationship. They were really concerned about me because they knew that that guy wasn't making me happy. And then, so that had an impact on them, which has been difficult, because it's been difficult to deal with the aftermath of that. But I feel my best friend and me are, fully back on track now. It's horrible when if you care so much about someone and you know that they're not being treated well, but because you have emotions for that person, you care about that person a lot. It's hard because not only has that person like deceived and lied to me and destroyed my trust, not been good for me, that has a knock-on effect with my best friend who really cares and loves about me as a best friend, because they feel my pain. They're very empathetic towards me specifically because they feel my pain. And so if I'm in emotional pain and upset, it's very difficult for them to see me like that, And I think that's what a true friend does feel like. If a person really loves and cares about you as a friend, then they don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you hurting. It's difficult for them. It's hard for them to know how to deal with that. So, that's been difficult. They're very supportive though, they're like, you deserve better, this person wasn't good for you in the end, so they weren't even good for me in the beginning. They lied from the beginning, and I just chose to forgive them and accept it. But usually I wouldn't do that. On this channel, I've said if they lie about one thing, they can lie about anything, and I was completely right. So I should have taken my own advice. Lesson is to take my own advice. I went against my own advice. I give good advice. Why didn't I listen to my own advice? But like some people, we don't listen to our own advice. They give loads of good advice to other people that really helps them in their life, but they don't take their own advice. So I held my hand up to being guilty of doing that with some of the advice I've given on this channel. I haven't followed through with it myself. I've gone against it. And going against my own advice, clearly see what happens. It's not good. It's not good. So I think learn from my mistakes, learn from my experience, and learn that you should actually listen to me because I give good advice. You know what I mean? So I think that's being honest. I think, when you're going through such a hard breakup, you have to be radically honest with yourself. You have to be radically accepting of yourself. Like, what did you do wrong? I didn't listen to my own advice. What did you do wrong? I accepted the fact that he lied in the beginning. I forgave him. He used a type of logic that I accepted, even though, like, for my personal value and belief is there's no excuse or reason for lying. You should always be your authentic self. Always. You shouldn't ever lie. And if people don't like that about you, don't like the truth, then that's their problem. It's not your problem. Your duty and mission in life is to be completely honest and authentic, and that's it. If other people don't like it, even including your family and friends, that's it. End of story, So usually I wouldn't accept that, and I did this time. I got into a relationship very quickly, which again I don't recommend usually. It doesn't mean to say it can't work. I know that my best female friend, she moved in with a guy within 3 weeks of knowing him, and now they've moved in together, and then they went to retire early because she's older than me in Turkey, and now they're getting married this year. And I was talking to my mum, and she was saying her mum and dad, who are no longer on planet Earth, they got married within like 3 weeks of knowing each other. So it's not like love at first sight cannot ever be true, and people cannot ever stay together if they get into a relationship quickly, because I've seen evidence of that happening. But it doesn't mean to say everyone that gets into a relationship quickly is in a healthy relationship, even if they do last for a long time. And also, it's not really recommended in general to do that. But it does happen that some people who get together quickly and are with each other for a long, long time. I mean, even in the past, like my past heterosexual relationships, my two long-term heterosexual relationships, one of them I knew for 8 months before I got into a relationship with him, but it was still not good to me after I was friends with him for 8 months before I got into a relationship. So I waited with that guy. But, I still didn't know what he's like until he moved in with me, and then he started not being good to me and wasn't a good guy for me. But in the months leading up to that, I thought he was a really good guy. So just because you wait for months doesn't mean to say that they show their true colors in that time. They might not show it till later. So it doesn't mean to say just because you know someone longer that they're still going to be great with you and they're still going to be good to you and you're never going to have these problems, because I have had problems in the past with a guy who I knew for 8 months before getting into a relationship. And I was friends with first. So it doesn't always automatically mean that it's going to be better and work out and going to be good and that person's going to be good for you. I just want to reiterate that. But when I think about the achievements and successes I've had since not being with this guy, I'm more, a success is not being as anxiety induced, success is not being as stressed. A success is obviously like having this as number one hot new release on Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, and bestseller in multiple categories on both those platforms. Success is getting on podcast interviews and maintain those. So I had one already booked up before I split up with him, Dr. Leica, but I had to get into a really good state because I was very upset before that interview, like the day before particularly. So I had to get in a very good state and reprogram my mind to be in a good state for that. And it went really well because I have to be in the moment. I have to be present for his audience. I have to be thinking positive things, because that shows how to live your best life. And up until the point where I was with my ex, I was actually living my best life, apart from having ill health I was still having ill health with the lump spots and in February, but I got with him in March, and by March most of that had gone because I realized it was stress and I was reducing my stress, and a lot of that had just gone, or nearly, well, died down a lot. So I was actually getting better from that before I met him. But if I think, I haven't got the anxiety in my tummy anymore, I haven't got the stress. I got to a point where I couldn't really function very well in that relationship towards the end. When he was away from me, I felt so disconnected, and he wasn't saying he missed me anymore, and his behavior and attitude just changed, and so it produced a lot of stress and anxiety in me, and so that wasn't sustainable. It was hard for me, it was physically difficult for me. I'm not saying all that is his fault at all, I'm just saying how it actually was, the reality of the situation. And so I don't miss that. I don't miss being lied to. I don't miss someone deceiving me. There's a lot of things that weren't good that I've got away from, that my nervous system has calmed down a lot to what it was, and being on this channel, I'm on this channel far more, I'm regularly live streaming. I'm doing loads of shorts videos, having over 41,000 views, like I said earlier, on this channel in 28 days is just incredible. All my figures are up. So even though I'm dealing with heartache and heartbreak, physical, emotional, mental pain, I am in fact succeeding in my career wise. I feel I'm not succeeding enough, as in, because I do get emotionally upset, so I have to take time out. I can't do as much work at the moment as I used to do, or at least I think I can't. But then when I list everything I do, I'm like, you're still doing a lot, Sandra. I can't do, I feel, as much work because I need to be out of my flat more, because there's still too many memories of him here, right? And I feel like I get claustrophobic feeling. I'm extroverted anyway, so I think this week's been a mixture of like getting over him, or thinking I'm getting over him, enjoying my single life again, which has been incredibly refreshing, but then going backwards to thinking about his face and thinking about the good times, to then going thinking about the reality of the situation. He wasn't good. It's a good job you're not in that relationship anymore. It saved you a lot more heartache and pain. It would only have got carried on being really bad for you and made you really much more ill than you already felt in the end. So this is a good. Then you've got the success of the Diary Confessions, but then you've got the success of this channel. You got the so it's kind of been a rocky road, you know. This week hasn't been plain sailing. This week has been a mixture of doing really well, liking your single life again, loving your single life again, to like, oh, dip down, oh, right, remember the good times, remember his face, you know, like, oh my god, I can't stop thinking about him, to like, oh, well, let's think about the present moment. Let's think about the future. Let's get into a good state. Let's get into a more positive state about you two. Like, I think I need some help because if I'm attracting these bad people in my life, these people that turn out to be not good for me. I'm not saying he's inherently bad. I'm just saying when I say bad people, I mean someone who's deceiving and lying in my book is not a good person, right? It doesn't mean to say he hasn't got good qualities, because I saw the good qualities. I saw the good side of him. Unfortunately, I tend to focus too much on the good and not enough on the bad, actually. You know what I mean? I focus on the rose tinted glasses version of him. In fact, instead of the reality of the situation, of how bad he made me feel and how difficult things were, and how it's not good to lie or deceive, and he gave you false sense of hope and false sense of security. So I tend to focus on the good, not these actual things that are, you know, like shutting down communication. Like, you can't have a healthy relationship with someone who shuts down and avoids conversations and doesn't really share his true feelings some of the time, and, you know, who says things like, you know, that's mind manipulative and stuff like this. So, you know, it's been a rocky road. That's what I'm trying to say. From being happy being single, getting on with my life, moving forward, moving up, then dipping down into the fact that, you know, I'm still really upset. I'm still like thinking about him, missing him in some ways, in the sense of I'm used to being with him and spending time with him and missing his smile. And then to coming out of that thinking, are you insane, girl? There was a lot of things that wasn't good about relationship. You would never go back to him because it would never work. Like, to like, oh, what if in the future he really changes and decides that I'm the one for him, and he fucked up really badly and he changes his ways and his behavior. I'm like, but that's never going to happen. You know, wish him well with someone else, because the problem is I'll actually bring the problems he's got now, he had with me, he'll just bring them to a new relationship, unless he realizes that he has to change his behavior. Like I realize I'm going to work on myself and change my behaviors to hopefully not attract that type of relationship again. I can't guarantee that though, but I'm going to work on myself anyway. But he needs to realize that he needs to work on himself and change his behaviors and the way he is as well, to be better for another person in another relationship, which I don't think he realizes. So, you know, that's up to him. It's not up to me, you know. And at the end of the day, we've not been together for 5 weeks. That's the reality. I can live without him. I can survive without him. I haven't been with him for 5 weeks. I've been doing better overall without him. And, you know, my life is actually flourishing. Or I'm able to start doing schedules again, start planning things, start catching up with things that I neglected when I was with him, you know. And so this is really important to me. You know, so I'm still celebrating successes and wins, even though I've had difficult times. Like I had a podcast interview earlier, a few hours ago, and that was incredible, you know. And it was only just over a couple of hours ago, actually. And that was incredible, you know. And I got myself into a good state for it, because when I'm in my element, talking about asexuality and talking about what I'm passionate about, talking about helping asexuals, then I forget all the problems with my ex. I forget about him existing a lot of the time, you know, because I'm in my element, I'm in my zone, I'm, you know, flourishing and thriving. So I wish I could tell you that I was over this ex. I wish I could tell you that everything's fine now. I've unhooked myself emotionally from him, that I don't care what happens to him anymore, and I'm just moving forward in my life and progressing. That's the story I'd like to tell you, but it wouldn't be 100% true, right? I am still moving forward in my life. I am changing myself. I am decluttering my home. I am getting to become a better version of myself, I think. I am having successes on this channel with my books. I am progressing, but I'm also going back some of the time and repeating old patterns in my mind. So this is something I need to work on. This is something I continue to work on. I'm doing Matthew Hussey's Love Life Course Club. I'm doing Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club courses, and I'm trying to move forward in my life. So what you have to remember is it's okay to still grieve. Life will get better. Everything does happen for a reason. Use this as a learning curve and growth opportunity. Understand this as a challenge, and it's a huge obstacle at the moment, but you will overcome it. You'll become stronger, more resilient as a result of it, and you will triumph, and it'll take you to the next best level version of yourself. And give yourself some grace. Know that it's okay to not have all the right answers at the moment. It's okay to still feel grief and some attachment and love feelings for the person. At the end of the day, if I admit that to myself, it's better than denying it, because that just increases it, right? But just because I have love feelings for the guy doesn't mean to say I'm meant to be in a relationship with the guy. I'm not, right? We can love someone from afar, but it still doesn't mean to say they're any good for us to be in a relationship with, right? So just because you have feelings for someone doesn't mean to say they're the right person for you or you should be with them, right? I don't want to be with this person again because I know they're bad for me. I know I could never go back to this person. It'd be dreadful for me. So I know that. I am clear on that. Anyway, I hope you've liked this video. I hope you find it useful, helpful, insightful. If you're going through a heartache and heartbreak at the moment, I'm so sorry. Remember to celebrate your successes and wins and focus as much as possible on positive things that are going well in your life, particularly since you've left that relationship. Because if you focus on how much good stuff is in your life, how much you've gained since the relationship, the pain of being out of it and leaving that person and not being with them anymore will, be less than the gains of the successes. Therefore, you'll be happier to be out that relationship because you'll realize you're more successful and gaining more in your life by not being with them than you would have if you'd stayed with them. So the gain of leaving that relationship and being out of it actually outweighs the pain you're experiencing, which means that the balance is tipped in your favor and you will be fine in the end. You will be okay. This is just a temporary setback. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Share it with anyone who may benefit. I'll see you soon in the next video live stream. Lots of love. Don't forget, I got a copy of Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual, bestseller and asexual perspectives on Amazon. And I'll see you soon in the next video or live stream. Lots of love. Take care. Subscribe and hit that bell icon. Bye.